Good morning, everyone, and welcome, welcome, welcome to She Leads, She Speaks Toastmasters Club. She Leads, She Speaks is a specialty Toastmasters club that focuses on cultivating public speaking capacity of women through transformational leadership. The mission of our club is to provide supportive and positive learning experiences in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self confidence and personal growth. With that being said, I call our meeting today to order at 10:56. Please mute your audio unless you are speaking. Our Toastmaster of the day is Distinguished Toastmaster Lisa Simmons. Lisa joined Toastmasters in 2008 to support her coworker who was nervous about attending meetings on her own. She is a member of 3 Toastmasters clubs. She has served as a district finance manager twice, a former area governor where she earned the Select Distinguished Area Award, and she is the current Vice President of Education for She Leads, She Speaks. As a Vice President of Education, she has led 2 clubs to Perfect 10 under Toastmasters Distinguished Club program. Lisa's favorite quote is, "Do what's right over what's easy." Outside of Toastmasters, Lisa is an amateur opera enthusiast, a professional Korean drama enthusiast, and an expert tennis enthusiast. Today, Lisa will be our virtual guide to our fall open house and women's leadership panel discussion as we are challenged to revive, refresh, and restore as we make a difference in our world. Please welcome our Toastmaster of the day, Distinguished Toastmaster, Lisa Simmons. Lisa, it's all yours.
Thank you, Sherilyn. Welcome, everyone, to She Leads, She Speaks Toastmasters. Our theme this year is Revive, Refresh, Restore. At our open house last year, our very own shero and first-time author, Gwen Bell Kamika, encouraged us to live our best life. And we've taken her word to heart. We've grown 1.5 times over from 28 to 47 members. We celebrated becoming a Perfect 10 Club with a legendary backwards meeting during our June Hail and Farewell ceremony. We even took the time to adopt the bamboo as our official club plant, thanks to our president, Maylene Smith, who found her resiliency like that of a bamboo when she was not able to find at the grocery store that ginger soy sauce for her salad at the onset of the pandemic. Now, as your vice president of education, I might be a bit biased, but I think we've built a robust educational program. Networking, time management, journaling, mindfulness, and yoga. We have explored a diversity of topics. In fact, we began 2020 discussing mentoring, and we're about to conclude it with our fun, competitive, hopefully value-added mentoring campaign, which is going to bestow several of our members with donated gift cards from Sephora, Ultra, and a few restaurants like Smith's, Founding Farmers, Melting Pot, and more. So today we're going to be focusing on our core mission, service, one of the 4 core values of Toastmasters. On National Make a Difference Day, a day of recognizing service, we have a dynamic, engaging program of speakers who are going to talk about the service that they've given and also that they've received. And in turn, I hope that you can use their experiences and testimonies to revive, refresh, and restore yourself and others around you. So before we get started, I would like to recognize a couple of dignitaries in our midst who are not a part of our panel today. We have our Area 72 Director, Hema Sidhu, and also the District 27 Director Iris Taylor. Welcome, ladies, to our lovely group of sheroes. I'd also like to thank our distinguished Toastmaster, Natalie LeGrand, for her wonderful facilitation of our networking session. It was pitch perfect in being able to set the tone for today. I'd also like to acknowledge our other Natalie, Natalie Matthews. She is going to be our timer. She also just joined our club last month. Woohoo! She's going to be displaying timing cards of green, yellow, and red to designate when a speaker has reached the minimum, midpoint, and maximum speaking times. If you are not a member of Toastmasters, we are a little prickly about speaking within a given time frame because we don't want to be that speaker that goes on and on and on. We also don't want to be that speaker who gives a one-word response to an open-ended question. So thank you again, Natalie, for taking on this role. Another hallmark of Toastmasters, other than our reverence towards speaking times, is our educational program. Every member practices giving a prepared speech from one of our 11 learning paths in our educational program known as Pathways. Today, we are showcasing a new and an experienced Toastmaster to give you a feel for what you can expect as you begin your journey in Toastmasters. Or if you're already a member of Toastmasters, perhaps a member of our club. Okay. Our first speaker today is Alvita Lafall. Alvita joined our club in May, and she is giving a speech titled, I Invite You, from the Dynamic Leadership Path. She is speaking from the Researching and Presenting Project. The purpose of her speech is to learn or to review basic research methods and to present a well-organized, well-prepared speech. Everyone, use your physical hands or perhaps your virtual hands to help me give a hearty welcome to Alvita Lafall.
Good morning, Madam Toastmaster of the Day, sheroes, and I believe there is a hero here today as well, and guest. I invite you. I can bring home the bacon, fry it up in the pan, and never, ever, ever let you forget you're a man, 'cause I'm a woman. Sheroes and heroes, by the show of hands, how many of you are familiar with this song and know its origin? There's a few of you. Wonderful. This song, I'm a Woman, was written and sung by the artist Norma Dolores Egstrom, professionally known as Peggy Lee, in 1963. It was a jazzy, sexy song whose lyrics brag about women at being able to do all and to have it all. However, in 1980, this song gained popularity as a jingle for a perfume ad on Jolie. But most importantly, it was adopted as a song of empowerment for women of equal rights regarding pay and workplace opportunity, because we can have both career and take care of our home. Sheroes and hero, this old song rings true today. We have successfully demonstrated our capabilities. For example, but not limited to, engineers, accountants, healthcare providers, educators, CEOs at home and in the boardroom. We volunteer, mentor, serve, and caregive. We are mothers, sisters, aunts, friends, and we're partners. But what about taking care of our needs, our health, our souls, our spirits? Sheroes and heroes, I invite you to stop and create a simple plan that will bring peace, serenity, and joy to your life. I invite you to revive, to refresh, and to restore yourselves. I invite you to take one day every 30 days to reflect on your accomplishments, to become introspective of your higher power given gifts, and without judgment or criticism, honor yourself. You can take a long walk, sit in a beautiful park, take a long drive somewhere that you've never been, and allow yourself to just be uninterrupted for as long as you need, as this is a form of renewal. Next, I invite you to take a long hot bath once a week and add relaxing fragrances like Melissa oil or Roman chamomile or the many variations of lavender, like sweet lavender, lavandin, or spike lavender. Lavandula is a genus name for lavender, and there are over 47 different species which which is a member of the mint family. It's native to Southern Europe and also to Northern Africa. Now, according to an article written by the Mad Optimist, sweet lavender or English lavender has the mildest and the sweetest and the most fragrance, and it's inhaled and used to relax. It also helps stress and it also helps you unwind. Lavandin is a natural occurring hybrid between sweet lavender and spike lavender. Its stronger, pungent fragrance is due to the camphor notes in the plant. It's used in perfumes, essential oils, soaps, and as an antiseptic. Now, my favorite is lavandin because I love the way that it steeps inside of a diffuser. Now, spike lavender is the most pungent of all of the lavenders, and it also has the highest concentration of camphor notes. Now, it's also used in essential oils, but most importantly, it's used as a decongestant. Now, inhaling any of these earthy fragrances soothe and restores your overworked body from head to toe. In addition, I invite you to spend 15 to 30 minutes each day in the morning or in the evenings, meditating, aligning, recentering, and refreshing your mind. This special time can be your daily gift to you, honoring yourself and reminding yourself that you are just awesome. Further, I invite you to stay connected to this wonderful group of sheroes in She Leads, She Speaks. As a member, as a mentor, as a protege, guest, or any role you choose, this group can be the wind beneath your wings. Finally, I invite you to share with someone at least 3 ways that you can revive, refresh, and restore. Now, by the way, I forgot to mention that it's not me inviting you, but it's you inviting yourself every morning that you look in the mirror. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alvita. Ladies, if you don't mind, please provide Alvita via private chat feedback on what it was that she did well during her speech and how she can challenge herself going forward. Our second speaker, Ms. Christina Scott, gives our club a lavender scent with her memorable speeches, whether it's about yoga or about her natural hair. She is a distinguished Toastmaster. And for those who are not aware, a distinguished Toastmaster is someone who has completed the entire Toastmasters educational curriculum. Christina has decided to take her first steps towards completing the journey a second time. Also, if you're not aware, the first speech in Toastmasters is affectionately referred to as the icebreaker speech. In that speech, you simply introduce yourself to the group. After 6.5 years, she is going to reintroduce herself as she begins another journey in the dynamic leadership path. Help me to welcome, with your physical hands or your virtual hands, Ms. Christina Scott, as she delivers her second icebreaker speech titled, "Allow Me to Reintroduce Myself."
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. Ladies, have you ever been afraid to say something out loud because you feared that it might be too bold? The author Marianne Williamson has a quote. It's sometimes associated with Nelson Mandela, but it states, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us." And this time last year, I was living out that fear. You see, every year, my best friend Patty and I, we choose a word that we want to represent the coming year. And we usually know around November, late November or December, what that word is. However, this time last year, I knew what my word for 2020 needed to be, but I was afraid to choose it for fear of what it might actually teach me. You see, over the years, I have learned that words are powerful, and what you speak in the atmosphere absolutely comes to you. However, over the years, Patty and I have also learned that the word that we've chosen has been exactly where all of our learning for that year is, but it's also exactly where we've been challenged for that year. Like I said, ladies, words are powerful. And so, distinguished guests, Madam Toastmaster, today I'm going to talk to you about the word that I chose for this year. I'm going to tell you about what led me to choose that word, the greatest lesson that I learned from it, and then I'm going to leave you with a call for action. So, by show of hands, how many of you have ever had a life that you envision in front of you to a T, only to have the rug taken from under your feet? Yeah. Well, that was me last year. Not only had this metaphorical rug been taken from under my feet, but I had begun to lose hope that there would ever be a rug again. I knew that the word that I needed to choose down in my gut, I knew that word was faith, but I was afraid. I was afraid because what lessons would I learn? What challenges would I come across? And I kept playing around with other words, but I knew deep down faith was that word. And so when I finally chose the word faith, it showed up where I least expected it. Early in this year, at the start of the pandemic, things changed for a lot of us, and many began to say that 2020 was canceled. I refuse to say it was canceled, though, because I know that lessons can be found even in the toughest situations. I found my greatest lesson on faith in my garden, the garden that I would have never begun had I not been on lockdown at home. You know, I'm a Christian, and as a Christian, I've grown up hearing that we should walk by faith and not by sight. all of my life. But it really wasn't until this year that I saw it, what that means in its fullest capacity. And at first I thought, oh, I'm just gonna grow some fruits and veggies in my garden. Little did I know. So when I decided to do gardening, as when I decide to do other things, I go in pretty hard. Gardening was no different. And I became pretty obsessed with gardening. Some of the plants that I wanted to plant, for example, like tomatoes, they needed to be started inside of the home before they could go outside into the garden. And so inside, I planted the seed, and I would wake up every morning before work, and I would go over to this egg carton of tomato seeds that I had, and I would water every morning, sometimes multiple times a day, make sure it had the proper sunlight. And in the beginning, ladies, I was watering dirt, just over there, watering dirt every day. But my hope that these plants would grow kept me going back to watering it. And one day, there was a sprout, and then another, and then another. And somewhere in that, I had a realization that this is exactly what faith is. Faith is planting a seed and believing it will grow. But belief is not enough. To walk in faith means to plant the seed, to nurture it, to water it, to talk to it. And when it grows, to keep that thing alive. And so I began to think about my own life and wondering, these seeds that I want to grow, have I even planted them? Have I watered them? Have I been a faithful gardener myself? What are the seeds that maybe I had stopped watering? And so it's October, ladies. This is a journey that I'm still on. And it's something I'm working throughout the remainder of the year. But allow me to reintroduce myself. I am Christina, the girl who is learning to walk in faith. Now, ladies, I know this is an icebreaker speech and it's supposed to be about me, but one thing that I've learned, and even this morning in a mentoring session that I had with a group of mentees and mentors, we don't live in a vacuum. We don't experience life just to keep things to ourselves. This journey called life is a collective one. My story is not mine alone to keep. So I turn to you in my closing words and I ask you, what is the thing that you have been afraid to say out loud because you fear it might be too bold? What do you need to speak into existence for your coming year? Sometimes, ladies, we are the only ones holding us back from walking into our wildest dreams. So as you think about your 2021 and what you want to represent your coming year, I challenge you to lean in, to be bold, and to choose a word that speaks life into your coming year. Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. Whether we live in California or here in the DC area, gardening seems to have made an enormous impact on our heroes this year. Thank you, Christina, for that inspiring speech. Ladies, if you don't mind, if you can also provide Christina via private chat feedback on what she did well during her speech and how she can also challenge herself going forward. And I must say that our members really do want your feedback. I often say that people join Toastmasters not necessarily to practice, but to receive feedback on how to more effectively communicate to other people. Feedback during the evaluation portion of our meetings is the most important educational programming for any of our members' growth. The evaluation portion of our meetings is led by a general evaluator. Today, our general evaluator is another distinguished Toastmaster who resides in California and is currently the District 36 Division A Director, Lori Bradshaw. Lori is going to explain her role and what it is that you're about to hear for the next 10 minutes. Thank you, Lori.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Toastmaster. As the general evaluator, my role is to guide the evaluations through this portion of our meeting. I will start by first calling on our first evaluator, Carmen. Carmen, are you online? Can you turn on your microphone?
Yes, I am.
Okay, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam General Evaluator. Good afternoon, not afternoon yet. It's only 11 o'clock. So I'll say good morning to everyone. Sorry. I hope everyone is doing well. Today, I had the privilege to evaluate the speech of Alveda Lafont. And I can say that it was a great pleasure for me to hear your speech, which was titled, I Invite You. I am a sucker for speech titles because it gives me an idea of what I should be looking for. And usually when I hear your speech title, I tend to focus on it during the speech so I can see where you're going with it. So today you told us what you wanted to invite us to do. And you had a great energy throughout the speech to give us that idea. You were very vibrant. You noticed that we had a hero. So that was nice to incorporate that into your speech. That means you paid attention to the environment where you were in. You had a song, which was really nice. It grabbed my attention even more as an audience. And then you had a question to make us think about what you're gonna be talking about to us today. Throughout your speech, you also had pauses. You said, for example, mothers, sisters, friends, and partners. I really like that. And you had several other examples this way during your speech. And I also noticed that you had a great repertoire of recommendations. You invited us to take walks, to meditate, to drive, to take the bath challenge. I will definitely do that one. And I also noticed you talked about lavender. I am a person that really loves lavender because it smells really great. And I think when I use it in my house, it gives me a sense of calm, a sense of peace that I really enjoy. But while I really loved your repertoire of recommendations, one thing that I noted that could be improved on, and again, that's my personal opinion, is that you could have shortened the list a little bit. For example, you could have told us about lavender, but give us a sneak peek and invite us to come back to the next speech where you will be talking more about lavender. Because you had a lot of great facts about lavender. You had multiple uses, how we can infuse it, how we can use it in tea, and so on and so forth. And I wish that we had a longer speech for that, just to talk about lavender, because I know a lot of people in the audience will be taking those recommendations to the tea and using them throughout their lives. So overall, great ability to grab the audience attention with your song. You have a really great voice, so keep using it throughout your speeches. But the questions that you had, your research was well showcased because you had a lot of examples, a lot of facts in your presentation as well. And with all the illustration, we had a lot of notes to take on because you were inviting us to do a lot of things that are easy to do for pretty much everybody. My recommendation for next time will be to, if you have a lot of recommendations like you did today, pick one maybe that you can use as a sneak peek for the next speech, something that will give us a sense of suspense, like in a movie, for example, when they have multiple shows and they tell us, oh, this is something that's going to happen in the next episode, but we're giving you a sneak peek now so that you can really wait for the next one. So that will be my recommendation for your next speech. But again, thank you for your great energy. Your presence was really nice. I really enjoyed the speech, and thank you for inviting me to join. I mean, I'm already a member of She Speaks, but it was great that you had a plug into She Speaks joining as a member. Thank you. Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you, Carmen, for your excellent evaluation. Next, I would like to call on Charlene, who will be our second evaluator for Christina's speech. Charlene, can you turn your mic on?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Evaluator. And good morning, everyone. I will be evaluating the second speech. Allow me to reintroduce myself by Miss Christina Scott. Christina, that was a quite empowering speech, and I thank you for that. I could relate to it a lot, as I'm sure many of our Shiros and guests could. The content was very good. You were very clear, comfortable, and it was very interesting. You grabbed our interest from the very beginning. For me personally, I love Marianne Williamson. So when you quoted our deepest fear, which is my favorite quote, it really pulled me in from the beginning. And you were very confident and clear in beginning your speech, and you also kept us in suspense a little bit about what the word was that you chose for the year and how effective it was going to be. And we got a sense that that word was well thought out, it was powerful, and it was going to have impact. Your speech had a great flow. The introduction was very strong, good audience engagement. You asked us the question, how many had the rug pulled from under our feet, whether literally or proverbially this year, which we could all relate to. You had great vocal variety and eye contact, as well as hand gestures. And I love when you said, Christina, the girl learning to walk by faith. You know, that kind of gave us a summary of what this speech was going to be about and where it was going to go. And you ended very strong with asking us questions like, what is the thing that we are afraid to say out loud because we think it would be too bold? And you challenged us to lean in, be bold, and choose a word that represents life. So it was a very well done speech. What I would suggest going forward that what would have been nice was to have the plants or a seed as a prop, or something with the word faith, just more visuals to really have us more engaged in the process of what faith was. It would be a good visual representation of faith. And also I would recommend, you did use pauses, but I would recommend even a little more vocal variety when you got to different points, like um, when you were emphasizing, you know, the process and the challenges of learning to walk by faith. That would make it more effective. And also I would have liked to see you develop more that concept of Christina, the girl walking by faith. Just develop that a little more. So that would be my recommendations. Thank you, Madam Evaluator, Madam General Evaluator.
Thank you for that very effective evaluation, Sherilyn. As the evaluator now, it is my job to evaluate the evaluators. So first I will start with Carmen. I really like the way that you used your whole Zoom window. You had good gestures. You really had a good presence here on the screen, and you kept a lot of eye contact, which was very effective. I like that you had some really good suggestions. It's hard sometimes as an evaluator, we fear giving suggestions because we don't want to discourage and we don't want to feel or come across as being rude. So being able to step up and make suggestions was an excellent way of using the time that you had to evaluate. I love the idea how you gave ideas about how the speech could be strengthened so that you can help Avita to have a stronger speech next time she steps into a speaking role. And Sherilyn, I really appreciate the way that you structured your speech. You told us what you felt, what you saw, what you heard. I think that was a very effective way to frame it. So when you were making suggestions, it wasn't a condemnation of or a negative thing about what was going on, but it was just sharing what would have made it more effective for you. So it's a much gentler way to make the point, but it's easier to be heard by the person that you're speaking to. So I thought that was done really well. Overall, I think you both did an excellent job in the evaluations. It's one of the most feared roles because we don't want to come across as being negative. We always want to be supportive. So it's a delicate art to be able to give someone suggestions and help them without discouraging them. I think you both did that very well today. So thank you. And I will now turn the meeting back over to our Toastmaster, Lisa.
Thank you so much, Lori, Carmen, Sherilyn. That was amazing feedback for our ladies. They can take those specific suggestions to enhance their communications to future audiences. And that's the whole point of Toastmasters. When I joined Toastmasters 12 years ago and gave my icebreaker speech, I still remember my evaluator's words to me. Lisa, I really enjoyed you talking about yourself as if you were on a blind date. But if there was one suggestion that I can make for you, is that maybe you don't want to hold on to the lectern the entire time that you speak. And ever since then, I have never given a speech behind a lectern. And that's the whole point, to find those little things or little cruxes and be able to do away with them so that we can be a much more effective leader and communicator to people. The bookend of feedback is recognition. And we're going to pause and take a moment to recognize member accomplishments in and out of Toastmasters. And I would like to thank Christina Scott for her assistance in bringing this all together. Please enjoy.
Jerusalem, Ikayalami, Gilondoloze, Ambenami, Zungangishilana, Jerusalem, Ikayalami, Gilondoloze, Ambenami, Zungangishilana. I'm not perfect, I came from ruthless times as a juvenile. Ilondoloze, Zungangishilana. Look into my eyes, see pain and sacrifice. What's goes on my mind, just trying to survive. Ilondoloze, Zungangishilana. Tomaka emo wuru, oti wuru si wuru. Emi won wa mi ni gboro, toju ko oju o. Mi ani teji soro, time si mi solo. Láti Ìkọ̀rọ̀ sí gboro, down to Ìkòròdú o.
Aikolana, buso wami, aukolana. Ilondolose, zuhambe nami. Dawo yami, aikolana, buso wami, aukolana. Ilondolose, zuhambe nami. Jerusalema, ikhaya lami. Ilondoloze, uhambe nami, zungangishilana.
The bamboo tree itself symbolizes harmony. It symbolizes internal beauty. It symbolizes strength, resilience, integrity, excellence, unity, prosperity, all of which we observed over the past 2 years. That is She Leads, She Speaks. So today, let's climb the bamboo tree together. Let's be like the bamboo. Let's bend and stretch, like Althea said, and let's grow for each other. Fiscal 21 will be a great year with your participation and support. With that said, thank you, and I look forward to serving you.
So on this day of service, I like to commend all of our members for the work that you've been doing over the past few months. You've definitely been inspiring me. I can also say the same for our officers and the mentors, inspiring us all to be able to serve more effectively. We have 5 dynamic women who have been exemplary examples of service and leadership to others in our meeting today. And over the next hour, we are hosting a moderated panel discussion about women in leadership. I'm tremendously excited for it. This has been a program that has been 6 months in the making, and I know that you're going to enjoy it as much as I've been anticipating it. So our first panelist is Region 7 co-advisor Dana Swarner. Dana joined Toastmasters in 2012. At that time, she was a private piano instructor. She soon saw how much Toastmasters was transforming her, and so she quickly entered into district leadership. As part of her accomplishments, she served 2 years as a district speakers bureau chair and built a team of over 50 presenters and booked 100 speaking engagements. I know Toastmasters has taught me better, but I still can't quite convey how I would like, how impressive that feat is. In 2016, Dana had the confidence to launch a career and become a professional sales trainer. For 2 consecutive years, she was recognized as the top producer and won the title of top trainer. Sandra Coles-Bell is no stranger and not even she's just a true friend of this club, I just have to say. It's always nice that whenever you ask someone to do it, they humbly and excitedly are ready to do it. And so whether or not she may not feel this way, we do consider her a fellow shero. She's been a member of Toastmasters for over 25 years. She returned to district leadership this year by serving as our District 36 director. She last served in this position in 2008 and 2009, where she then led 3,000 members in nearly 200 clubs to its 7th successive year as a distinguished district. Outside of Toastmasters, Sandra serves as a lector at her church, as well as the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception. She works in the Archdiocese of Washington as a program director of cultural diversity and outreach. It should be noted that she holds a bachelor's degree from the first HBCU, Lincoln University, which colors are blue and orange. Danielle Derrick is, again, not a stranger to She Leads, She Speaks. She's actually a co-founder of our club. She's been a member of Toastmasters for 12 years. She served as District 36 Director in 2018 and 2019. At her place of employment, where she works in the Office of the Ombudsman, she served as the co-chair of the African American Network, a resource group that is dedicated to promoting diversity and inclusion and talent development. In that role, she developed a mentoring program pairing entry and mid-level employees with mid and senior level management. She also serves as a storytelling coach for Shortcuts, based in Baltimore, Maryland. She's the owner of a vegan frozen dessert company. But I would say that Danielle's greatest accomplishment, I think one that we can all celebrate, is being a cancer survivor. Another co-founder of She Leads, She Speaks is our immediate past president, Anna Oka. She's been in Toastmasters for 9 years and served as district director in 2017-2018. During her service in district leadership, she chartered a whopping 32 clubs. Anna is an oncologist and co-runs a dozen free clinics to provide healthcare services to underserved communities in the US and abroad. She is an advisor for Clinic in a Can, an innovative mobile healthcare service option for communities. She also other healthcare and leadership organizations. Even if you just tangentially know her, you know that she has a passion and interest in leadership, particularly around teen capacity building, emotional intelligence, and cultural competency. Now, to moderate our discussion with these inspiring women, we have someone who can empathize with their work. A member of She Leads, She Speaks, fellow Shiro, Alethea Perkins. Alethea is the 2020 District 36 Division Director of the Year. Woohoo! She's been a member of Toastmasters since 2008. Before becoming a division director, she led her area to select distinguished status as an area director in 2019. You would also be well served to know that she is a fierce speech competitor, placing third in the District 36 evaluation contest in 2017. Alethea is an accomplished story producer with over 15 years of television and post-production experience. She's worked in true crime television at Investigation Discovery for 8 years. Some of her fondest producing credits include fan favorites like Homicide Hunter, Fear Thy Neighbor, Body Cam, and the 3-time Emmy Award-winning series, A Crime to Remember. It best be noted for myself and for at least one other guest in the audience that she is an avid Star Trek The Next Generation watcher. A+ Alethea, I highly approve of your choices of television watching. So those are our panel members. I'm confident that you're going to enjoy this discussion of women in leadership. Towards the end of our initial discussion, there will be a Q&A. Feel free to use the chat function to send your questions to our 4 accomplished panelists during the presentation. And with that, I will now turn it over to our fellow Shiro, Distinguished Toastmaster, Division Director of the Year, Alethea Perkins.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you so much, Madam Toastmaster, for that wonderful introduction. Fellow Shiros, fabulous guests, and of course, our fantastic panelists, Sandra, Anna, Danielle, and Dana. Indeed, it is an honor to moderate this panel discussion today. And notice how I say discussion. Panelists, feel free to dive in, bounce ideas off of each other. Fellow Shiros, feel free to comment, piggyback, and ask questions in the chat box below, because we will be compiling your questions for the Q&A session after our discussion. Our open house theme is revive, refresh, restore. And keeping with that theme, our panelists are giving us exclusive access to the building blocks of self-care, self-growth, self-esteem, and restoration. So let's kick things off with self-care. As we've heard a few moments ago, you are all accomplished, driven women in positions of great responsibility. Sandra, how are you doing all of this? Tell us about your work-life balance. What does it mean to you? And how do you inspire your team to establish their own work-life balance?
Well, good morning. Thank you so much for the question, Alethea. Work-life balance is vital. Having been in Toastmasters for a long time, 25 plus years, one of the things that I found is that I could have gotten so enamored into the organization that I had to figure out where the kids came in, where work came in, where husband came in, all of those other things. And so work-life balance is vital for me. But the thing that I found the most important was when I moved into leadership, making sure that that was exhibited and stated to those people who worked with me. And so every time I would say to folks, don't forget, take care of you. Don't forget, think about you. Don't forget, think about family. Don't forget, so that people wouldn't get, I know they're passionate, I'm passionate as well, but all of those other parts of our life don't get excluded when we just focus on one area. And so we have to be responsible, I believe, as leaders, and particularly with others, to make sure that they know to embrace every one of those components. There's not a time in which I've not said to them, I don't want an answer today. I want you to think about it. Come back and we can talk about it. So giving people the opportunity, the space, and the respect is a way I do it for myself, but I also encourage those who work with and for me. Thanks for the question, Alethea.
Thank you. And Anna, could you also speak to that balance? How do you take care of yourself while you are managing everything else around you?
For me, it's always been two things. The first is I've had a standing rule for years, and everybody who's a mentee of mine who's worked on my teams, you know this. Even my mentor for my district director here, she's on here, she knows this. I don't Toastmaster or do anything on Sundays unless it's an emergency. If you're not dying, or otherwise something that is life-threatening or an event that I possibly can't cancel, I don't do anything on Sundays. And it's very important to me because it's a way for me to reset, to just spend time with my family, spend time with myself. Most people know this as well. I am an introvert by nature. I don't like being around too many people all at once. And so serving in leadership and being pulled in so many different directions, it's an energy drain. And my Sunday time is a way for me to reset. The second thing that I think is really important to maintain balance is having teams and trusting those teams to deliver. And even when they make mistakes, be there to catch, but don't be a hoverer over the teams. And so those are two things that I've used over the course of my leadership to just keep balance, my Sunday routine and making sure that I grow large teams around me.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things you're really speaking to is the art of setting professional boundaries. And Danielle and Dana, talk to us about your own process and journey of finding that way of setting your own personal boundaries and why it's so important.
I think for me, with setting the boundaries, it's important to be strategic. and to figure out, does this make sense for me? Prime example, when I first started at my company, I think I was on every committee that was outside of my regular job responsibilities. I helped start all the Toastmasters clubs outside of the one that was already established when I started working there. Anybody wanted me to do something, I would do it. Oh yeah, I can help you organize this. And it got to the point where I had to think about, okay, what am I doing and why am I doing all of this? So I had to figure, does it make sense for me to do this? Is this going to help me accomplish my long-term goals? Yes, these are all wonderful projects and committees to serve on, but do I really need to be on everything? And I remember specifically, they sent out a newsletter and they mentioned me in this newsletter and they talked about all of these things that I did. And someone emailed me and they said, wow, you're on everything. You do a lot. And they meant it as a compliment, but it definitely made me reflect and say, why am I doing all of this? I don't have to do all of this. I just need to be strategic and do what makes sense for me.
I also have priorities and I have long-term goals. So I know exactly what I need to accomplish and when that goal needs to be accomplished. So for me, part of that balance is working out, eating well is extremely important. So no matter what I've got going on that day, I'm going to get up early and I will get a workout in. And I will make sure that I have natural, healthy food always available, even if I'm traveling. And I also surround myself with a whole lot of people that are way smarter than I am. So those teams are going to be a group of people that actually balance me. So if I'm really strong in sales and marketing, I'm going to surround myself with a whole bunch of people that have administration skills and like to do all of those things that I either hate or that I'm just not efficient at, so that I can work predominantly in my areas of strength. The other thing that I like to do is make sure I schedule time with family. All of my grandchildren live, they're a drive away, but it's not like they're down the street. So I have to schedule that time. And that's another long-term goal that's important to me, is to have a strong relationship with my children and with my grandchildren. So we always make time for that. And then everything else gets thrown into my priority list. And the thing that I found that's made a huge difference is to have a CRM. So even if you're not in sales, just to have something where you can put in reminders for tasks that you need to do, like, oh, I don't know, it's my grandbaby's birthday's in 2 weeks and I need to order a gift. So that reminder allows me to make sure that I get that thing done.
Mm-hmm. Dana, I like how you mentioned working out, because when I think of leadership and team building, I often think of a boxing match. You know, we are referees, and sometimes we are outside of the ring and we're watching our team growing and we're learning ourselves. But sometimes we have to say, hey, hold up. We have to jump in the ring and we have to say, take my hand, let me lead you. But if you hop in the ring too soon, you might get a knuckle sandwich. And so the act of leading and learning is a form of self-care in itself. So Anna, talk to us about how you found that balance. How did you learn how to effectively lead and learn?
I'm still learning it. I think you know this because we had a debrief call with all my mentees this morning to just talk about opportunities for improvement for me. So I'm very much still learning it. I think one of the things that I found, though, that helps you navigate how quickly or the lack thereof to jump into the ring is learning the people that are on your team. The more you know them, the more you know their capacity. And I mean, literally learning them ongoing, because how you meet a person is not necessarily where they're going to be, down the road. And so a perfect example I'll use for this is Danielle. Just because I can. Danielle and I served on the trio for 2 years together. The first year, it's a different relationship because you're just learning each other. And then by year 2, when she was my PQD and I was the district director, very different relationship, because I could just say, this is what I need, one line, I know she gets it and she can run with it. And so my advice to anyone who's leading teams is, number one, learn your team and then trust them. And it's okay for people to fail. I don't know how many times I can say this, but it's the only way people actually learn. And so once in a while, it's okay to let them fail. But if that relationship is good, the person will be able to come back to you and tell you, I'm struggling, I need help, where you don't necessarily even need to jump into the ring, quote unquote. They will call you into the ring because they know that they're ready for help.
Mm-hmm. And not only is that process of leading and learning a form of self-care, it's also a form of self-growth. And I'm going to pivot over to our next topic of self-growth and to my next question. The Toastmasters Club mission is to provide a supportive and positive learning experience in which members are empowered to develop communication and leadership skills, resulting in greater self-confidence and personal growth. And I'd like to focus on the last portion of that mission statement, self-confidence and personal growth. Dana, how did you figure out how to lead confidently, and how did you grow at the same time?
Ooh, yikes. You just have to do it, and you have to smile your way through it, even if you're having an internal panic attack. I mean, that's the honest truth. I remember, oh goodness, I remember when I was an area director. And for those of you who don't know me, I got drug into Toastmasters by my husband after resisting for 3 years. But he wore me down and I got into this thing. And then all of a sudden, I'm 6 months into Toastmasters and I'm in the speakers bureau. And then another year later, I'm an area director. And I'm like, okay, I can do this. I had to do an area contest. And I thought, okay, well, that's cool. Because my husband, who's done it before, who's a division director, will be kind of here and he'll hold my hand and he'll do all my paperwork. No, he had a death in the family in Canada. He was not even there. And I had to deal. So I'm like, okay, I should, I don't know, read the manual and I should have calls with these people and figure it out. And I remember probably in all of my leadership experience, that was the most panicked I may have ever been, because I just took it for granted I would have help. So that was a situation where I realized, okay, preparedness is always a good thing. Can't always rely on other people when it's your responsibility. But that was a growth experience for me to be able to jump in there and work with my team and lead people through that process, even though I was learning while I was doing it.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Danielle, could you tell us a little bit more about how you found that confidence as well?
Practice, failure, again, smiling through it. I think Dana said it best, where you are literally having this panic attack on the inside and you're like, how am I going to do these 100 different tasks? But on the outside, people think you're just so calm and serene, and you're actually inspiring others when you go through it. And so one of the things, I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt who has the quote, or who said, a woman's like a tea bag. You don't know how strong she is until you put her in hot water. I think leadership definitely shows you what type of tea bag you are. And let me just tell you, I have definitely learned that I am not a green tea. I am definitely like a dark tea, very, 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 very strong. And you learn that. And I think it's also being honest with yourself. I think Anna said it best. You have to have good relationships with people, not only so that they can come to you and tell you when they're struggling, but when you can go to someone else and say that as well. And I think for me, definitely through leadership, I've learned that it's okay that everything isn't perfect. It's okay to fail, but still strive for excellence, so that you are, trying to do the best that you can do.
Mhm. Danielle, I think a lot of that has to do with growing with each other and growing with one another, which leads me to the District 36 motto this year, which is grow for each other. And when you're in leadership and you're working with numerous teams and committees, you establish a cycle. There's preparation, there's delegation. Sometimes you have to stand back, and then sometimes you have to come together and regroup. So Sandra, you also, in your role as District 36 Director, manage several teams and committees. Talk to us about how you were able to settle into your groove. How were you able to establish your cycle, your leadership cycle, so that you could all grow with and for one another?
Oh, Alethea, thank you so much for that question. When it comes to that, I think you have to have emotional intelligence. And so having to know yourself and grow yourself was, I think, the foundation of all of this. Once I knew who I was as a leader, and then watch that nurture her, watch her grow, um, get to understand her challenges, get to understand those things that she does well, knowing that relationships are part of the tea bag, the cup and the hot water, getting all of those things in. This has been the way, the formula that has been used and continues to be used to get the teams to understand each other. First, working intrinsically, getting them to know themselves. And we did that exercise prior to the start of the year for them to get to know themselves, what their strengths were, what their challenges were. And then as we're putting those teams together to get them and give them the opportunity to, as you've heard before, grow for each other and then fail in sometimes. Sometimes that means we have an aside conversation, but it's a conversation because it's the relationship that's vital. And I had to keep asking myself, what's vital here? Is it the objective or is it the relationship? And the growth comes in the relationship portion. And then being able to nurture that. So it may be because of the fact of raising 3 children, 3 grandchildren, all of those things, Dana, you got it well. It may be all of those things combined, but when I look at this entire environment, it's all part of the formula that surrounds myself and also the teams that are composed. And I'm most grateful for that opportunity.
Mhm.
Thank you for the question.
Anna and Dana, your roles in and outside of Toastmasters are also based heavily on relationships. Can you talk to us about some of the more difficult relationships that you have to manage and how you manage it?
So I will speak about work and not my day job, but with the clinics. So one of the things with running clinics outside of the country is navigating different cultures and different government systems, and the importance of when you meet with people, really developing relationships. I wouldn't even say quickly, but organically. And the way that I found that you can do that is being very upfront and authentic from the beginning, because it almost shortcuts the whole process, right? We don't have to go through the rigmarole of who am I, who are you, if we just come straight to the table with what it is we're doing, what we want. That's the first thing. The second thing too is that in healthcare, for better or for worse, there's a lot of God complexes running around rampant, a lot of ego run amok, and it's really trying to center people to focus on the objective, right? So even if we might not necessarily like each other as people or have the same belief systems, what are we trying to get done? And can we come together to get it done? And that's always my focus. Whenever there's about to be drama to hit the fan, I always remind people the objective. Forget the personalities, whether we like each other, etc. are we all trying to get the same thing done? And can we all pull together to get it done? I feel that reframing it that way helps some of the ego to be jolted out of the conversation, and for people to not focus so much on themselves or what's annoying them, as it were, or where the personality differences are, and just focus on the objective and nothing else.
Right. Before I pivot over to our next topic, I wanted to talk about setting personal goals because, yes, the team is important. But while we are nurturing our teams and growing for each other, it's so important to continue to nurture ourselves. So, Danielle, talk about your personal goals. How were you able to achieve your personal goals when you were serving in your leadership role and make them happen while you had so much going on around you?
So in August of my program quality director year, Toastmasters sent me an email and said, or they sent it in July, and they said, guess what? In August, your district is going to get pathways. Figure it out. Good luck to you and your district. And I remember by the time we got to February or so of that year, there were so many people around me who were in pathways, and outside of logging in just to see what it looked like and to help the pathways guides to do their trainings, I was not a part of pathways. I hadn't done one speech. I'd already had my DTM in the traditional program. I hadn't done anything. And I had to sit back and say, you're doing everything for everyone else, but why not set your own goals? So what I do is at the beginning of every year, when everyone's doing their New Year's resolutions and buying all this weight loss equipment and everything, I actually put out 5 goals, 5 personal goals. And not only do I put those personal goals together, I actually give myself time limits and milestone dates by which I need to hit certain things so that by December 31st, I have hit those goals. And I can tell you that that just makes life for me so much easier with respect to accomplishing my goals. Again, it's about being strategic, being intentional about the things that I want. And it definitely helps with just accomplishing them.
Indeed. I can speak personally to that and say that when you have so much going on and you're managing so much at home and with Toastmasters and with your professions, and you're able to accomplish that one personal goal, it just feels wonderful. And that leads me to our final topic of self-esteem and restoration. So, panelists, y'all are bad. I mean, you guys are amazing. And I want to talk about, Sandra, how do you celebrate your wins? How do you pat yourself on the back?
Oh, well, thank you so much again, Alethea, for that question. And there's actually somebody who's attending this meeting that this is going to be directed to, and she knows who she is. I believe in daily pats on the back. They don't have to be huge pats on the back, but they need to be the acknowledgments of the things that you've been able to accomplish. It's sometimes just how many of the things on my to-do list did I tick off today? And I make sure that I go back and check that. And then I go, hey, you did a great job. These are the opportunities and these are the things in which you need to maybe focus on tomorrow, if tomorrow is, or now. Are you avoiding it, Sandra? So it's that ability to go back and to take a look at who I am, what I'm about, and how do I accomplish? So it's little things. It may be a cup of tea. It sometimes is something as simple as sitting in my favorite rocking chair by the balcony patio window and just looking at the leaves fall for 10, 15 minutes. It may be something as, let me give myself the gift of an hour of meditation. It's all of those things, but a little cheer about who you are, what you've accomplished, and where you're going to go. And it could be just, let me send a text to the children and just say, I love you. For no reason, you're a mushy mom. They love it, I love it, and we're done. So it's the little things in life. and making sure that I can use my phone to plug those reminders in so that they'll come across and I can be reminded of, how you doing, Sandra? That's it.
Dana, I know that you have personally taken several leaps of faith. You have a small business and you are very successful in your own profession. Could you also talk to us about what it felt like to take that leap of faith and what it felt like to succeed and how you celebrate yourself?
Okay, the leap of faith was exhilarating and equally terrifying. It was like when I got on the scooter in Charlotte because my son was goading me into riding a scooter. And there's that moment of this adrenaline rush and fear, and then the exhilaration of, well, with the scooter not falling off, but with accomplishing the goal, to just be able to say, wow, I did it. So I was teaching piano for 18 years. I was very good at it. But I had been doing that because I was home with my kids and I wanted to be there. That was my work-life balance at the time, is get people to come to me. Mm-hmm. But after the kids were in college, I was just bored and I wanted to do something different. I didn't know what to do. And I just said, okay, I can either just jump into something because I'm not going to get the experience until I do it. So I took that leap. 6 months into it, I almost quit. I literally, I just had failure after failure after failure with a little bit of success sprinkled in, just enough to make me say, okay, this is possible. But 6 months in, I was just, it's hard. I can go back to teaching piano. But then there was that spark in me that said no, because if you do that, then you're not going to see who you really are. Mm-hmm. So it was really that personal drive that said, no, I can't let people who are being rude and dismissive and not taking me seriously because I'm a woman, mm-hmm, control my destiny. I think that's really what happened, is I just got angry. Mm-hmm. I just got angry enough to prove it, not just to myself, but to all of the naysayers, that it could really be done.
Mm-hmm. It's so useful to find that power to lift yourself up. And a part of self-esteem is a big part of that is restoration. And so, Anna, talk to us about a time when you fell down. How were you able to restore yourself?
I think for me, one of those quote unquote fall down / reset moments was right after my district director year actually ended. Well, you would not know this, but Danielle would know this, and Sandra. I had one of those moments where I'd been working at a particular hospital for a while. There was an opportunity that presented itself. It was going to be a dramatic pay cut. That's just the honest to God truth. And so, but it was such a good opportunity, And I was going to be out of the country, kind of splitting my time between the US and here. But from a financial standpoint, it didn't seem like the wisest thing. And I just had my daughter at the time. And so there's all this question of, am I going to essentially be failing in that role? Because when you become a parent, I mean, a lot of your thinking focuses on the financial security of your family for the sake of your child, not just for your sake. And so it was the question of, is this even the right time to do this? And also trying to navigate with this going back and forth, how is that going to work with my family, my husband, and my kind of also messing with that relationship with this back and forth. And so it was a lot of soul searching I had to do. And that's truly one of those decisions that I had to make solely by myself. I didn't really talk much about it with anybody until I decided. And I had to just go with my gut. This is one of those moments where intuition serves us. And I believe that your intuition becomes sharper the more true you are to yourself. So that when you have these moments where you're not sure what to do, you can just lean into that intuition and just follow it. And that's exactly what I did. And so I leaned into the intuition. I took the job. At that point, I told my family and friends. Of course, half of them were like, "You're nuts. This is horrible. You will regret this for the rest of it." You know how these things go. And a couple just kept quiet, and the silence was damning. So I knew that was the silence judgment. But it was fine, because what that experience did for me, twofold. For one, when I came back, I got a better paying opportunity with the same organization, because I came back to them and said, "I'm coming back, but these are the terms, take it or leave it, and I'm out." So that was the first thing. But the second thing that it really did is it helped me see that you have to be at peace with your own decisions, right? And even if everybody doesn't get it, it's not for them to get, it's for you to get. And they'll get it later. Like now, a year later, they get it. But imagine if I psyched myself into making the decision to please anybody else but myself, husband included. That's why I said I made the decision myself. So I'm including him in that discussion. And he can hear me, but I'm including him in that discussion because I knew that if I talk too much with anybody, I would convince myself that this was a bad idea. And in my gut, I knew that it was the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of it involves just getting out of your own way, and which is one of my own personal mantras. And I want to open up my final question to all of the panelists. In one sentence, speak to our fellow sheroes, because I know there's at least one of us who has something that they either want to say or do, and they haven't quite found the confidence to do it or say it. In one sentence, what would you say to that woman? Sandra.
It came to me this morning. Living the truth in love of yourself and in love of those around you. That's my sentence. Living the truth in love.
Danielle?
I would have to say, and I say this a lot to myself, it will not be the end of the world if you tell other people no and you make them unhappy, but it will be the end of your world if you do not practice self-care for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Dana?
Be willing to fail, because sometimes the greatest accomplishments come from failure.
And Anna?
I would say trust yourself, because your capacity is usually wider and greater than you realize, but you will not know that capacity until you try and expand whatever it is that you're interested in doing.
Awesome. Beautiful. And all very helpful. Well, Sheroes, the chat box is a buzz, and I can tell you are all literally bursting with questions. And so we are going to transition over to our Q&A portion. We have a plethora of awesome questions to power through. So let's start with our first question. How do you approach someone to be your mentor or sponsor? Anna?
So I've had different experiences with this situation where I've had people who will co-opt me as their mentor, and I swear I don't know I'm mentoring these people. They'll just come out of somewhere and say, "You've been my mentor." I'm like, "What? Where'd you come from?" So I've definitely had the people who did not ask. They literally just wove and wrangled their way into my life, and here we are. But I've also had people who asked very deliberately. And ironically, one of them is the person asking me this question on this panel. And it was a direct conversation from Alethea. It was, "Would you mentor me? I'm going to be a division director." And that was basically the conversation that we had. So I've had it both ways. I think for anybody, if you're afraid of approaching someone to be your mentor. My encouragement is just do it. A lot of times that person probably wants to work with you already. The same was true when I approached Sandra to be my mentor in the yesteryears. She was already getting ready to ask me, do you mind if I mentor you? And so imagine if I was afraid and I didn't reach out, the relationship may have never happened. So my encouragement is just ask. The worst the person can say is no, or not this time. That's truly the worst that can happen.
Dana, I'm sure that you, with being in your position as an advisor, and I'm sure you mentor many, many people, formally and informally, how would you say the best way to approach a mentor, a potential mentor would be?
Just be part of their lives. Most of the people that have mentored me were people that were willing to answer my questions, and they were willing to spend that little bit of extra time. And so I kept asking, because every time I've been in a new role, you better believe I'm going to ask a bazillion questions, and I'm going to bug people until somebody answers me. And if they answer me once, I figure they'll answer me again. So I just keep asking. And I find that I usually mentor the same way. I have people that will just come to me and ask questions, and I'm always happy to help them. As busy as I am, I don't ever really go look for someone to mentor. So I think it's just a matter of being approachable, allowing people to feel comfortable to ask questions, and then just giving them as much as they're willing to take as a mentor.
Mm-hmm. That's something that we do a lot of in Toastmasters, a lot of approaching people, a lot of addressing the room, and a lot of side conversations. It's effectively networking, which leads me to my next question. Can you share some tips for how to network effectively? Danielle.
That's a great question, especially I too am an introvert. And oftentimes I am that person when I go to conferences, I will sit at the table while everyone else is mingling and let all the extroverts come to me because they probably think I look lonely, right? But being in Toastmasters, you have to break out of that. Being a district director, you cannot just sit at the table or sit in the back of the room. That's not going to work. So it's definitely for me stretching myself to go up and start talking to people. And it could be something as simple as starting to talk about the weather. I don't have a problem with asking people what they do for a living because I feel like that's the biggest or the greatest way to network. You may have some skills that I need. I may have some skills that I could offer to you, or there's some kind of way that we can work together. So just start talking to people, talking about their interests. And the key thing is also to follow up. Sandra, I met you at the conference the other day. I just wanted to check in and say hello. Hope you got home safely. Have a great day. And then you start that relationship. And then when Sandra's thinking about, oh, so-and-so is vegan now, and they're complaining that they miss ice cream. Well, guess who has frozen desserts that they can offer that, so it's just kind of building relationships and pushing yourself out there.
I know for me personally, whenever I plan to do anything, whether it's approaching someone for a networking, or if I want to get up and on stage and give a speech, I always ask myself, what am I really trying to achieve here? What's my purpose? And that leads me to my next question, Sandra. How did you discover your purpose?
Oh, I thank you for that question, Alethea. I'm still in that purpose-driven look and mode. It changes. But I think one of the things that, and I'm a high introvert for you all who are just in awe of all of us introverts, terribly high one. So I honestly think this is the way in which I try to do these things is I'm going to piggyback on what Natalie said. And Natalie talked about how she gives herself a word. And so I give myself a phrase or something or a motto that I have to embrace for that year. And that is what I focus on, concentrate on. And so that's how I do it. All right. Just kind of be out there and try to figure this out. And it's been that opportunity to meditate and to really sit down and to think and go introspective. These past 7 months, 8 months, 9 months have been incredibly powerful. And I am forever grateful for this time in cloister, as I call it, not in COVID. I call it being in cloister. So that's how I'm figuring out and listening to what my purpose is. It's ongoing.
Absolutely. I'm going to direct my next question to Dana. What is the most important leadership lesson that you've learned?
Oh, delegation is not dumping. This is true. I love to delegate, but my district director year, oh my gosh, I had a nightmare of a problem because I had delegated all the finance. I didn't want to do it. This person did, promises were made. And so instead of delegating, checking in, having all of these checkpoints like you're supposed to do, I don't. I walked away. And then when the red flags started popping up, I just overlooked them because I gave this person the benefit of the doubt. And it was bad. It was so bad that by April, bills had not been paid that were submitted in January. And it came up at my annual business meeting. I mean, I was trying to deal with it, but we were trying to get through the audit. And it was just, there were a bunch of behind the scenes things that people didn't understand. And that was the biggest lesson that I ever learned. It doesn't matter what the job is, and it doesn't matter how much I don't want it. If it falls under my duties and responsibilities, I have to have checkpoints with people. It's great to trust your team, but always verify. Have prearranged checkpoints just to make sure that everything's being done, because things can unravel really quickly if you're not paying attention. Mm-hmm. So trust, but verify.
Anna, I know that you are no stranger to checkpoints and checking in. So could you also piggyback off of Dana's answer and talk to us about your leadership lessons?
I'm with Dana in terms of trusting and verifying. But even more than that, I think that one of the things I learned in Toastmasters, for better or for worse, is sometimes people say things that they're not doing. And sometimes they'll say it, especially to the person at the top, because they don't want to look bad. And so I found that letting people understand that you not telling me is not the solution, because first of all, I'm going to find out, and the fallout is going to be so much worse. So better we just come to the table with the truth. And some of it is just being very transparent and encouraging everybody to be transparent and being accountable and holding other people accountable as well. So if I'm saying that there are going to be checkpoints for, say, the deliverable of my team, I need to also be able to give them reports and checkpoints on what I'm doing as the leader. So if I said I was going to do such and such, I'm leading by example by also revealing where I am with the checkpoints. And I think that having that back and forth is helpful. I know during my trio year, and particularly the district director year with me and Danielle as my number 2, there were checkpoints between both of us, where it wasn't a thing where I'm the district director, so she can't ask me, well, what about that one thing that you said you would do? And I think having that accountability two-way is very important for every team, so that they can check on you to make sure you're delivering, and you can also check on them as well.
Mm-hmm. I think a lot of what we do as Toastmasters, whether you're in leadership or you're a general member or a club officer or an area director, whatever it is that you are doing in Toastmasters, it all involves risk. Our next question is, how did you learn to embrace risk-taking when you don't feel like you're sufficient for that role or that situation? Danielle.
I think it's called your icebreaker speech. I don't know. You just get up there and you kind of just do it. Definitely, I think I look at when you're a child, children take so many risks. They will jump from the 10th step to the floor and not be scared. And I think by the time you get to an adult, you probably don't even want to jump from the second step, you know? So I actually like to bring out my inner child. I like to also think about, if I take this risk, what's the worst that can happen? And luckily, within the safety of Toastmasters, I always like to tell people Toastmasters is a safe place to fail. But you also don't want to go around failing all the time. Failing is good. You definitely learn from failing. But sometimes you have to take those risks. And I said it, what if she didn't take that job? You know, she had to make that decision for her. She had to take that great risk. And so definitely with me, with risk taking, I do have to think about my 3 kids, 2 cats, and a dog before I make some certain decisions. Actually, 3 cats now. Sorry, I'm not a cat lady. But I also think about, is this the best decision for me? And what if I don't do it? Do I want to stay the same, or do I want to grow? And for me, it's always about growing, stretching myself. And if you are not uncomfortable with something, then with a process, meaning you're not stretching yourself, if you're too comfortable, then you're doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm. Sandra, I know that you have to make a lot of big decisions and sometimes take a step back and hold your breath and see what happens. Could you also talk about the daily risks that you take as a district director?
Oh, thank you so much again, Alethea. The risks are always done in prayer. I start there. I start with the centering. I start with appealing, making sure, doing the assessment, figuring out opportunities and challenges, weaknesses and strengths, and then move forward from there. So it start with that degree of centering. It's a requirement for me. It becomes an even deeper requirement as I move forward in this, older age. Um, I've got to really make sure that those assessments have been done. And so I need to start with the center of my soul and then move outward from there.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for the question.
I'm obsessed with this topic of risk, and I'm glad that it was our final question. I always like to tell a story, and I always like to bring up my twins. I always find a way to insert them somewhere into the conversation. But a few months ago, while we were sort of in the throes of the pandemic and we were all stuck in the house, my son wanted to go outside and play. And it was raining. And when I say it was raining, it was torrential, it was wet, it was that hot, sticky rain. And he says, I want to go outside. Can we go outside, mommy? And of course, I said, no, we can't go outside. It's raining. And this 6-year-old child, his response was, but mommy, if we go outside, we will get wet. That's it. If you go outside, you'll get wet. You'll get wet. You'll come back inside. You'll dry off. You'll be alive. So it's just a daily reminder to me and to all of you fellow sheroes, take the leap of faith. Take the risk. It's okay. What could happen? You might get wet. And if you do, just dry off. Move on. Have fun with it. Embrace the rain. And so that concludes our Q&A portion of our program. I'd like to thank our panelists, Sandra Coles-Bell, Anna Oka, Danielle Derrick, and Dana Swarner, for lending your time, your expertise, and your wonderful insight to our panel discussion today. We've learned a lot about self-care, self-growth, self-esteem, and restoration. And I hope you can apply it to your everyday lives and your own Toastmasters journey. Madam Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, ladies. Are you revived? Are you refreshed? Are you at least restored? Whatever level that you're at, we're going to push you a bit further. I joined out of loyalty to a coworker who didn't want to attend meetings alone. 12 and a half years later, I stay because of the leadership development that it's given me. Toastmasters gave me the real life opportunity to experience the difference in managing versus leading people. And because of it, I was able to be promoted twice over a 7-year period. That is my testimony. And today you're going to hear 3 more members give their testimonials about the value of Toastmasters as well. First, I'd like to introduce our club secretary, Maggie Serrano. She's been a Toastmaster member since our last open house last October. Maggie, if you could please take yourself off mute and share your story with the rest of us.
Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and guests. Revive, refresh, restore. That is how we grow not only for ourselves, but for each other. I'm going to take this testimonial opportunity to flex my bamboo muscles. 1 year ago this month, I attended a She Leads, She Speaks open house. I didn't know anyone. And yet immediately upon entering into the open house, I felt connected. We started the meeting with a bingo card, and the bingo card required us to network with each other. The Toastmaster of the day was Alyssa, and she was engaging. She sat right next to me, actually. She identified that I was new. She asked me about myself. I met everyone in that room that day through the networking session. By the end of the day, I had signed up for Toastmasters, and I signed up as a member of She Leads, She Speaks. A year later, in September of 2020, I found myself going back to grad school. I'm taking not 1, but 2 graduate level certificates online, which is terrifying for me because I was a traditional student in the sense of sitting in a classroom. Here's where I get to flex my bamboo muscle. My very first assignment in one of the harder of the 2 graduate programs was to pick a person or an organization, analyze that person or organization. And part of that analysis was to explain why I chose that person or organization. So many of my classmates were stumped right from the beginning. Not only did we not know how to begin, but we didn't know how to cram all of that information into the page limit. Fortunately for me, I had a year of Toastmasters training. Through She Leads, She Speaks, we have educational sessions, we have an educational committee, and I was assigned my mentor, Kathy, who is always available to me, always. This isn't a mentorship program that just happens during meetings. This is every single day, any time of the day when I have a question or a fear. I also benefited from the structure of Toastmasters program. I'm in Pathways. The first speech I gave was an icebreaker. It was about me. When I thought about this project, I realized they're really asking me to talk about myself. This is my professor's request for me to give an icebreaker. Additionally, I have been trained on how to give an evaluation. I've been trained to make evaluations personal, purposeful, and positive. I was taught that through She Leads, She Speaks and the Toastmasters Institutes. I crushed my paper. It set the tone for the rest of the month. I am now at the close of my first 2 classes and 2 graduate programs, and I am chomping at the bit to continue. For that, I am grateful. I am revived, I am refreshed, I am restored, and I am able to not only do all of these additional academic studies, I'm working full-time, and I am a proud member of She Leads, She Speaks Education Committee in addition to being the secretary. I again thank you, Madam Toastmaster, for this opportunity to provide my testimonial, and to anyone who is curious about how to become a member, should I become a member, will I have the time to do it? You will, because we will get you through it. And you'll be better at the other side of it. Thank you.
I know that I am biased, but I absolutely love the plug for the educational committee. If anybody would like to join, please see me after the meeting. But more importantly, we are crushing boardroom presentations and academic presentations. Well, let's see what one of our club mentors, Amy Mui, a Toastmaster member for almost 9 years, has to say in her story.
Hello, fellow Sheroes. If you want to have better relationships in all aspects of your life, you are in the right place. Toastmasters has improved my communication skills and thus my relationships and allowed me to develop new friendships. My experience with Toastmasters started almost 10 years ago with my first job out of graduate school. I had no idea what it was. I just saw a flyer in the cafeteria and saw it was open to all employees. When I attended my first meeting, I was hooked. I loved meeting new people, learning new things. I'm a librarian by training. I loved hearing the different life experiences, building my travel list, and improving my communication skills, trying to be more concise and within the time limit. Communication skills are needed for all of our relationships. It's been the best professional and personal decision I have made. I've built friendships, and even at my new job, I didn't think I knew anyone. I showed up, and then there were 3 Toastmasters at that job, 2 of them from this club alone. I've participated in the amazing mentorship program that this club has. Shout out to Eden, who I know is in today's meeting. I've gained important life skills like active listening, giving and receiving feedback. My family loves that one, as do my coworkers, I hope. And I feel like it's just been such a safe place to learn and grow. I got to practice humor, which my husband's usually the funny one, so I've kind of stolen his jokes, and he has no idea because he's not a Toastmaster. I also get to go at my own pace. So unless Lisa is asking me for a role, I am also that introvert, and so I get to take risks here at this club because she asks and I am willing to try and step up because I know it's safe and supportive. I'll get feedback on how I can improve in a safe manner. I also took months to give my first speech. And so what I love about this club is that it is at your own pace and there is so much support. Like before this, Lisa got us all ready. Lisa is part of the glue. And I feel like that is what makes the club is the relationships and the ways that you feel so supportive. I've had so many great opportunities in Toastmasters to grow, even if I wasn't ready to grow. Like at the club level, at the district level, it's almost like Toastmasters knew I needed to grow. And even when I can't get my life together for a meeting and I just show up 5 minutes late, I am always so refreshed and restored when that meeting ends, and I'm so glad that I attended. I always learn so much. I get to meet amazing people, and the skills that you learn in Toastmasters are so transferable to all aspects of your life. My mom always says the best investment that you can make is in yourself, and it's a form of self-care. As a Toastmaster, I get to invest not only in myself, but in my club and in my community. And so I'm going to continue to invest both in myself and in this community of Sheroes.
Yes, Toastmasters has taught me how to inspire and motivate people to do my will. But my life is made so much easier because in this club, whenever I have asked somebody to do something, they have been willing and available to do it. And Amy has been a classic example of that. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us, Amy. And finally, I'd like to introduce our club treasurer, Jennifer Ferguson. She's been a member of Toastmasters for 18 and a half years. I remember hearing her give a keynote speech a few months ago at another club, and she absolutely blew me away. And I'm sure she's going to blow you away with her testimony of what Toastmasters has done for her.
Thank you, Lisa. Hello, everyone. My Toastmasters journey, I align it to gardening because I too love gardening. I'm an avid gardener. Today, I would use 3 flowers that punctuate 3 different aspects of my Toastmasters journey. I have my lilies, and my lilies represent me, my overall growth over the years, not just as a Toastmaster, but also as a person. I've served in several leadership roles over the years in both District 27 Toastmasters and District 36 Toastmasters. I served as a club officer. I served as an area governor, as a division governor, as a youth leadership coordinator in both District 27 and District 36 Toastmasters. Those are my lilies that's developing my leadership skills, showing me my leadership style, and showing me what is my leadership capacity. Next, I have the tulips. The tulips in my journey has taken me into professional speaking, which is one of my desires, one of my goals. One thing that I really want to do is to speak professionally. And I've had the opportunities to speak in India, Saudi Arabia, Uganda, just to name a few. And I've also had the experience of presenting to 100 plus attendees at the District 27 Fall Conference in 2015, and as recent as earlier this month, presenting at the United States Patent and Trademark Office. Exhilarating experiences, yet humbling. And last, I have my roses. This is the 3rd flower in my garden, my Toastmasters garden. Roses, beautiful, but very interesting. The thorns on the roses represent me during this pandemic. I feel as if I'm in a drought. I did not expect any sort of growth, but I'm here to tell you that even in a difficult time, even in a drought, there is still life. And this is where the members of She Leads, She Speaks come in. Each one of you who have been on this journey with me represent my rosebuds. You represent my rosebuds by the love, the care that you are giving me, the support, the encouragement. And when you recognize that I'm being pushed, but my push is not just to get me to move, but my push is toppling me over, then as a mentor and as a leader, you step in and you let me know, Jennifer, we have to sit you out for a while so that you can focus on self-care and self-being. I've not experienced this anywhere else except She Leads, She Speaks. Again, you are the rosebuds in my garden. I know with your care and your nourishment and your attention to my wellness, especially during this difficult time for me, I know that it's preparation to take me into my next season, where I'll definitely be revived, refreshed, and restored. Toastmasters is allowing me to bloom where I'm planted, bloom even during this drought time, bloom even with the thistles and the thorns that are in my rose garden. So I ask you, if you're hearing my voice right now, how are you blooming? What's in your garden? Back to you, Lisa.
Miss Jennifer, our queen of analogies and metaphors. Thank you so much for that. To round out our member testimonies, I would like to share my truth. Toastmasters really is where leaders are made. I have seen ordinary people transform into influential leaders within their spheres of influence. Toastmasters really can make that difference. I experienced it this week. If you attended the networking session earlier, you may have heard my story about a presentation that I gave in front of a board of directors setting. And when I was struggling with how to present myself, I leaned on my proteges who gave me some advice about how to be authentic to myself. But more importantly, I started to remember Toastmasters and how Toastmasters has taught us storytelling skills. And I was able to rely upon those skills to deliver a presentation that by the end of it, I told myself I had knocked it out. And that's what Toastmasters can do for you. So if my or other stories haven't convinced you to leverage Toastmasters for your professional and personal development, then perhaps the story of our Vice President of Membership will. Kathy Malari will share her story, her invitation for you to join us. And then afterwards, you're going to hear from our president, distinguished Toastmaster Maylene Smith, who will provide a few announcements to adjourn the meeting.
Good afternoon, fellow Bamboo Sheroes, and especially our honored guests. My name is Kathy Malari. As Lisa said, I am the Vice President of Membership of She Leads, She Speaks. Can you give me a wave if you're feeling more revived, refreshed, and restored after this meeting? All right, yay, that's great. So this portion of the meeting is for our guests, and I'll be sharing about Toastmasters, the She Leads, She Speaks Club, and what makes our club special. So you probably heard over and over again in our open house, Toastmasters is an international nonprofit organization that focuses on promoting both public speaking and leadership skill improvement in its members. And in the last couple of years, actually, Danielle mentioned it, the new educational program, Pathways, has been rolled out. And in Pathways, you get to choose your path. So for me, it really reminds me of the Choose Your Adventure books. You get to choose how you want to grow in Pathways. So if you are focused on public speaking, you can choose the presentation mastery path. If, like me, you're interested in improving your leadership skills, you can do that in the dynamic leadership path. There's a variety of other paths that you can choose. You can pick something that really suits what your goals are now. So as we've shared, Toastmasters meetings are a great place, a safe place to work on some of these skills that might make you nervous to practice. And we've had a taste of both the prepared speeches as well as the evaluations and how important both of those are. We also have impromptu speaking that we can practice in table topics. And that will really help you if you're having an interview or if you just need to speak off the cuff because someone asks you a random question. And so it's a great skill to have in your back pocket. When it comes to She Leads, She Speaks, it's a women's club that is focused on women's interests. So when we have monthly educational sessions, they can focus on what our club members are interested in. Now, the topics that we've covered in the educational program have really run the gamut between yoga, mentoring, how to give your best table topics response, and how to get the best out of a negotiating situation that you might be in. All of these things can make you nervous or maybe just are unknown to you, and this club will give you those sorts of experiences. So there's also, as been mentioned before, a very robust mentoring program. There's actually a pretty feisty mentoring competition that's wrapping up here shortly. And what that has done has really motivated our club members to go try to give that speech, try to take on those Toastmaster meeting roles that they haven't done before. And it's been actually very fun to be participating and watching how that happens. And we'll see how the results turn out here in not too distant future. Future programming involves She Circles. So that's going to be a program that'll be kicking off early next year where club members will be able to meet in smaller groups and get to network and socialize a bit more. And it's very exciting. So it's something that we're still in the process of putting together, but it will give the club members opportunities to network with smaller groups so that you get to know folks that are in the club, members that are in the club more. It's kind of hard to do that in our current setting. It's like we've got everybody here in the club meeting, but we may not interface all that much outside of the club meeting. So She Circles will help with that. And as I can tell you, I am always inspired and impressed at the end of each of these She Leads, She Speaks meetings. I always feel that the time investment is just so worthwhile. And so if you're feeling any of this as well, this is my official invitation for you to join the She Leads, She Speaks Club. And even if you just want to have a little bit more information about Toastmasters, especially if this is your first Toastmasters meeting, feel free to drop your email address in the chat and I can reach out to you after the club meeting. Now, without further ado, Let me introduce our fabulous club president, Maylene Smith.
Thank you, Kathy, for the introduction. Today, I am just simply overwhelmed, and I am grateful to be surrounded and supported by such wonderful women and sheroes. I have a long list here of people I would like to thank for making today's meeting epic. Natalie LeGrand, Lisa Simmons, Avita LaFall, Christina Scott, Lori Bradshaw, Carmen Coffey, Sherilyn Thomas, Catherine Mallory, Natalie Matthews, Jennifer Ferguson, Maggie Serrano, Ella Hu, Sandra Belts Cole, Daniela Derrick, Dana Swarner, Anna Oka, Hema Sadhu, Iris Taylor, and also our members and guests. Our meeting today was epic. Our meeting today was reviving. Our meeting today was refreshing. And our meeting today was restoring because of all of you. Thank you for being our garden of lilies, lavender, tulips, roses, and bamboo, because we would not be She Leads, She Speaks without you. With that said, I always like to leave you with a quote, but the only quote that I can leave you with today is simply our own theme: to revive, refresh, and restore. And as Maggie said, but not only for yourselves, but each other. I challenge you to continue to find happiness. I challenge you to continue to find peace. I challenge you to find prosperity, no matter where you are during this pandemic and as you continue throughout 2020. So with that said, thank you for attending our meeting today. We will be staying behind the club officers to answer any questions that you may have. And I also will be leaving a link for the announcements in the chat session. Thank you again.